Hello and welcome to WTF Stories and Advice. I'm Louisa.
And I'm Caroline.
And it is Friday. Thank God.
We sound so high energy. Gotta pump yourself up, Louisa.
I know.
I'm excited. Woohoo!
I am excited, but good God, I've had a big week and a big day and a big last night, and I have about 7 million things to do after this before catching a ferry to Waiheke at 4:30.
And for those who don't know, Waihiki's a little island off of Auckland that is fucking amazing.
So many wineries.
Wineries, and it's beautiful and lush and tropical. And
I reckon I might be able to swim. Might bring my togs.
Oh, you kayaked there, though. Remember?
I did.
You kayaked for your morning show on the
I
hits.
kayaked from Mission Bay to Waiheke, which is 23 Ks. That's an achievement. I'll be telling the grandkids that.
What's that in miles? So that's like 15 miles, maybe? I think.
No idea.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just thinking of Americans. We have to think of our audience, Louisa. And I'm a recovering American, getting better one day at a time.
Yeah. What have you got for me today?
Well, I was trying to think of a story to tell because I am fucking full of them. And I thought of this one that happened a few years ago. And this is a crazy story. I like to tell this one at dinner parties. And a good friend of mine was married. Her husband started acting really weird, like staying out all the time. He'd come home, he'd stay up all night. He'd be like down in the basement doing God knows fucking what. And their basement was like quite old and had like several kind of like rooms off of it. And he was, I don't want to say what his career was, but he worked with his hands, right? And so he had a big workshop down there. Anyways, she goes down there one morning to tell him that she's going out for the day. She was taking the kids out for the day. She was meeting me. We were going to the movies. She goes down to ask him if he'd like a cup of coffee before she goes, because she was such a good wife. And she catches him in his little workshop smoking a meth pipe. And she's like, what the fuck? And he pushes her out of this little workshop, which she like never goes down into, never looks in.
Oh my God.
And she noticed there's like scales and weird like beakers and...
Oh my God, so he's cooking meth. This is full Breaking Bad.
This full Breaking fucking Bad. She had no idea. No idea.
Can you not smell it?
She just never went down there, and it was like a room that was inside of a room. And yeah, so she knew he liked to, let's say, dabble in drugs on the weekend, that his friends were kind of naughty, but she didn't really partake.
She didn't think he was cooking meth.
She did not fucking think he was cooking meth. Anyways, so I meet her at the movies, and she's like crying and is like, oh my God. And she said, for me, the biggest thing was, he couldn't even wait till I went out for the fucking day. You know what I mean? Like, he had to smoke it right then when she was right upstairs and she knew he had a massive problem. You can't even wait till your wife and kids are out of the house to fucking smoke it, like on a Saturday morning. There's a problem. She's a big believer in therapy and is like, let's go to therapy, and I think you need to go to rehab. And he's like, fuck you, bitch. You don't tell me what to fucking do. And she is not a woman to be told, fuck you, bitch. So she's one of the strongest women I know. She is kick-ass. And so she was like, hell to the fucking no. She tried to work with him. She really did love him. She adored him. But he wouldn't. He was just like, I don't have a fucking problem. You need to shut the fuck up. It's none of your business. She decides she's going to leave him. And she's going to move. Not only going to move, but she's going to move cities. And take the kids. Take the kids and take everything with her. She packs up on the day that she decides to move. She had movers coming at 12. This is the day he went to work. She sends me a text in the morning saying the dog has left the kennel.
It's like an operation.
It was an operation.
007 stuff.
Hired these movers that will help you pack. And we packed up the house in 4 hours.
While he was away, so
while
he
was
know.
At work.
Yeah.
Shitting ourselves because, lots of people drive by. He was good friends with the neighbors, anyone could just go,
home?
What happened, because funny things happen. So we're just like freaking out, packing up the house. We pack up his meth lab as well. Take photos of it, put it in a box, which I kept as leverage. Fucking not a good idea. Not one of my brightest ideas, but because she was moving cities, and she wanted to have leverage on him, basically. She was like, I need to hide this somewhere. And I was like, I'll hide it for you.
Oh, no.
Fucking not.
Oh, no. Now you're involved.
Now I'm involved. But I thought, well, he's never going to know that I have this. And if you know that someone has something against you, right, you'll behave yourself. And, you know, we wrote like an affidavit in it, you know, saying where we got it. And we figured his prints were all over it. We put gloves on when we handled it. I mean, we thought we were fucking sneaky. And I take this box and I put it in my attic. And it wasn't actually the attic. There was a room. I had a walk-in wardrobe in my bedroom, and there was a room or like a door that you could open, and that was above the garage. So it's all like bats, or I don't know if you call that
Pink bat.
pink bats. Yeah. I don't know if they call it that in the States. They call it something else. It's like insulation, right? So I hid it in there, and she packs up her shit. We went and we had a very expensive fucking lunch on him. Her mother had come and gotten the kids. Yeah, well, on his credit card that he didn't know about. And she gets on a plane and goes. And I'm like, okay, sweet. The morning that we were packing up, one of her friends was there who I never really got along with.
Oh, no, I can already see this is going. She knows.
When we brought up this box and I took it, she was like, what's that? And I said, don't worry about it. My friend's like, oh, well, Caroline's got leverage. She knew what the whole situation was, this girl who was helping us. But I knew that she dabbled in drugs as well and was quite close to her husband. And I'm like, fuck. Now, you know, I just had a bad feeling. Anyways, the husband comes home. His house is fucking empty. She even took the fridge. Like,
so he literally has nothing left.
I think she left him maybe a bed. She left him their bed. And I think she might have left his sofas because she didn't like them. And that's about it.
Everything else.
So
all he has is the walls.
He has the walls with the nails in the walls because she had a lot of art. I think she left him like a couple of pieces of art that was his. Oh, it was fucking bad. But she's not a woman to be messed with. And like when she tried to confront him one time, he actually punched a hole in the wall right by her head and said, if you know what's good for you, you shut the fuck up. And she thought, right, this is the drugs talking.
Yeah.
He's now like, it's too far. I'm done.
Too far gone. She needs to get out.
She needs to get out. A few days later, I get a phone call from my ex-husband, who had been very good friends with her husband. And that's how her and I met, is our husbands were friends. And he said to me, I've just got a very weird call from, we'll call him Joe, or John, we'll call him John, that he was wondering if I still had a key to the house and that you had taken his meth pipe and he wanted it back. Do you have his meth pipe? What the fuck? And I'm like, no, I don't have his meth pipe.
What are you talking about?
Why would I do that? And he was like, you've never done meth. And I'm like, fuck no. Do I look like, yeah, no. And he's like, well, he wants to get into your house to get his meth pipe. And he was very insistent that I like help him get in. And I told him, like, number one, I don't
bloody not.
Yeah. And my ex was like, number one, I don't have a key to the house. Number two, what the fuck is going on? And you need to be careful. And he's like, knowing you are somehow involved in this. And I was like, I'm not. How dare you? Blah, blah, blah. Hang up the phone. A few days later, my kids were with my ex-husband. I go to dinner at a friend's house and I was telling them the story of what happened. And they were like, what the fuck? Like, what do you, like, you need to not be involved in that. I even told them what I had in my closet. They were like, that is a bad idea. And I'm like, no, it's fine. Yeah, I've dealt with much worse situations than this. This is fucking nothing. Blah, blah, blah. And I remember as I was leaving, the husband of the couple whose house I was at, like, grabs me by the arm. He said, I don't have a good feeling about this. You need to be really careful. Like, you don't mess with people when they're desperate.
I'm imagining you, like, getting home and him waiting in your house or something terrifying.
I'm driving home. I call
my God, he's in your backseat.
No, he's not.
Oh, God, this is a horror movie. I can't deal.
Driving home, I call my girlfriend, the one who's moved away, and I'm telling her about how I told them. And she's like, why the fuck are you telling them? And I'm like, fuck, I gotta tell somebody. And I truly trusted this other couple. I said, you don't think he would do anything? And she's like, oh, no. She's like, no, honestly, he's not going to do anything. I told him I'm not going to report him. It's just really so he doesn't cause any trouble for me to get the kids back, you know, like try to force her to move back. Because she just wanted to cut all ties with him at that point.
Sure, I'm done.
So I get home. I try to turn on my light. My lights won't turn on.
Oh, my God, he's cut the switches.
And
this is like a horror
let's just
movie.
say he's done work in my house before. And I'm like, that's what. And so I'm still on the phone with my friend. And I'm like, the lights won't turn on. But then I turned like some other lights on. So some other lights turned on, right? And I was like, oh, okay, maybe the lights are out or something, or, So I thought that was weird, but I just had this bad feeling. So I walk upstairs. I get upstairs to my bedroom, and it's kind of like a loft, so it's open. And I look at my phone, and it's about to die. And I said, fuck, my phone's about to die.
Oh, my God. I actually can't. It's like a movie.
And I hear someone walk across the floor downstairs. I had hardwood floors, and I hear someone walking up thing. And I was like, someone's in my fucking house. And I run into the bathroom, and I grab my phone charger. Thank God it was like right there on the way. Grab my phone charger, and I run into the bathroom, and my phone fucking dies. So my poor friend is on the other phone.
Please tell me the bathroom door has a lock.
It doesn't.
Oh my God, I can't.
The bathroom door does not have a lock.
I feel like I'm watching a movie.
So I'm like literally trying to plug in my phone, and while I've got my foot against the door, right, because the plug is like far from the door, like freaking out, trying to get my phone in. You know how long it takes for your phone to fucking
turn on.
That was the longest fucking period of my entire life for my phone to turn back on. The phone turns back on, and it's the police. My friend fucking freaked out, and immediately, as soon as it cut off, and she can't call me back, she called the police, and she said, I was just talking to my girlfriend. She thinks someone's in her house. I'm really afraid. You need to send someone over there. And so I'm sitting there talking to the police, and I said, I think somebody's in my house. I definitely heard something, like my lights wouldn't turn on properly. And they're like, okay, don't worry. We're going to send someone now. We'll send dogs, sniffer dogs. So if he's hiding anywhere in your house, we'll be able to find him.
You're like, oh shit, you're getting sniffer dogs. I have a meth lab in my house.
Yes. And so I'm like, oh fuck. Okay. And I'm like, you know what? I think that my friends and I've just been at dinner, and my friends and we're telling scary stories about break-ins. I think I'm just imagining things. I don't know. I'm being silly. I have an active imagination. And I'm sitting there, and the cop's like, you just said you heard somebody in your house. What? No, I'm sending cops. And I was like, no, honestly, I think it's a waste of time, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just going, fuck. Like, I don't want to get caught with a fucking meth. That's like serious jail time, right? I think it would have been fine. My fingerprints weren't on it. I had a perfect explanation. It's still not legal doing that,
still,
right? That's still
illegal to have a meth lab in your attic.
We even consulted a lawyer, because she had a lawyer before she did this, and we consulted him, and he said, I really don't think that's a good idea for Caroline to take that. Like, that's pretty suspect. He's like, I see where you guys are going with this. It's pretty ballsy. You'll definitely have leverage over him, but I don't think it's a good idea. Like, as a lawyer, I cannot advise you to do that. And so I'm like, kind of calm me down, and I'm like, I know he's not going to hurt me, right? He's not going to try to do anything to me.
People on drugs, though. Like, anything could happen.
The worst that comes to worst, I just give him the stuff, right? He's not going to try to kill me or anything, and I'm hardly going to call the police and say, hey, he came and took his meth lab back. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah. He broke into my house for a meth lab.
And then I was pissed as well. I was like, fuck you. You want to fuck with me? So the cop says, it was like the 911 operator says, I'm going to stay on the phone with you. I want you to check every room in your house before I get off the phone. I want to make sure there's no one in your house. So I said, okay. I walked around the house talking to her, looking in every closet, every room. I went into the kitchen, had a butcher knife in my hand while I was doing it, which apparently is kind of stupid. Yeah. Apparently you're supposed to here's the tip, which I didn't know. And after I told someone this story, they said, oh, you should never just grab a knife like that. What you should do is get a small hand towel and wrap it around the base of the handle, and then you have a better grip on it, which I did not know that. Apparently because knives can slip in your hand. Oh. Or if people's hands sweat as well because they get all panicked.
I feel like also with a knife, like you could drop it or like they could grab it kind of thing.
Oh, it's just dumb. But it was literally...
a gun you could probably... But then obviously it's illegal.
I know. If this was America, I would have had a fucking gun, though. Yeah. I tell you that right now. My dad and my brother are way into guns, and would have been a different story. But anyways, I did not have a gun. And so I walked around. I looked in every room, every closet. There was nothing. But I still had a fucking bad feeling. So I went up, I got off the phone with the cop. I went back, plugged my phone back in, called my friend. And I just couldn't go to sleep. I'm talking to her, and I said, I just still have a fucking bad feeling. Like, yeah. And I checked. The stuff was still there. I decide I'm not going to sleep in my bedroom because it was like an open loft, right? There's no like door to shut to actually lock yourself in. And the only room in the house that had a lock was one of my daughter's bedrooms that it like came with the house. So I went down in that room. I slept with a phone in one hand and a knife in the other. I barely slept that night. And I pushed a dresser across the door. Yeah. And I slept not very well. Get up in the morning. I go out, I call my friend. I'm just like, I just can't even believe that. Well, I said, maybe I was imagining things, but someone had switched off several of the fuses.
Yeah.
And so certain lights wouldn't come on. So I thought, no, I wasn't imagining it. I walk out, I look at my front door and my front door is unlocked. And I had deadbolted it and shut it. The thing is with the front door is if you shut it when it's locked, it makes a big slam.
So he had to be inside.
He was still in the house when I went to bed.
Where would he have been?
I have no idea. He could have just easily just walked around in front of me. And,
Yeah.
the house was kind of like,
Oh, that terrifies me. That's like my biggest nightmare. It's someone like, the thought of someone like being in my house.
so he was still in the house. Yeah. So I called up my friend and I said, no, I was on the phone with her when I saw the front door. And I burst into tears. And I said, you have 2 hours for someone to come pick up this stuff up. I do not want it in my house. You need to call him up and say, she does not have your stuff. She's gotten rid of it. And I don't want anything else to do with this. I said, but don't call him and tell him that until after whoever comes and picks it up. So someone did come within an hour and a half and picked it up. I don't know what they did with it. Yeah, it was not someone who would want anything to do with that. They ended up throwing it away like a month later. Actually, now that I think about it. Yeah, they kept it for a little bit just to make sure that he didn't cause any shit. Yeah. Well, but they never told him that. They told him, we have it. We're going to fuck with you if you do anything.
Did he ever come back to you or did he ever contact you or anything?
Yeah, so she called him up and gave him hell. He denied it up and down, said he had nothing to do with it. I mean, I still to this day don't know for sure it was actually him. I don't know.
Yeah.
But all signs point to yes. You know what I mean? Like, point to him.
Yeah. So you're living at home alone at that point?
Yeah, I was home alone. Like, I had my kids, but 50% of the time. So half the time I was on my own.
Yeah.
In a house that was actually very easy to break into. Yeah. So I saw him like a year later. I was at some like farmer's market and I just suddenly felt this like burning in the back of my head. And I turn around and it's him and he's standing there and he has a new girlfriend who's like a total crack whore. And I was like, hi. And so he had the balls to come up and talk to me.
Really?
Yeah. And I was with some guy I was dating at the time. And he came up and he was just like, oh, hey, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, don't you fucking, hey, how are you, me? Are you serious?
You broke into my house, asshole.
And I didn't want to yell that, but I was just like, don't fucking be nice to me. Don't even try. And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, so-and-so said that you thought I broke into your house. That's terrible, Caroline. Why would you think I would ever do that? And I'm like, I have a very big reason why. Yeah, so the poor guy I'm dating doesn't know any of this. He's just like, what the fuck? So I do explain it to him after. But, oh, my God. Yeah. So my advice is if you find out that your friend's partner has a meth lab, do not keep it in your house.
I have
as a way to blackmail him.
So many questions, and like I just feel like that has to be the end of the podcast. Like nothing I ever talk about will ever top that.
It's a good one.
Holy.
Yeah. So hey man, that's a good friend. It is. Well, I'm a good friend. Yeah. She's a very good friend too. But
moral of the story: don't look after someone's meth lab.
No, don't say no to drugs and stay the fuck away from meth labs. It's never a good idea.
In my world, being 24, most of my friends are either like in good relationships or they're out dating and on Tinder and Bumble and all those websites or sliding into the DMs on Instagram, direct messages.
Sliding in, yeah.
And when I was dating a couple months back, it just made me think, and I know so many of my girl mates go through it as well, it's so hard to say no. Like, so often us girls will lead guys on, and I'm so guilty of it. And I know so many of my friends are. Like, at the moment, one of my friends, this guy keeps asking her out on dates, and she kind of got a little bit put off by the way that he was acting one Saturday night out. We were at a gig, and he was just being all clingy and kind of like intense to her, and they'd only been texting for a little bit, and so she was a bit like,
Yeah.
And now he keeps asking her, and she's like, do I go? Do I not? And she's sort of put him off for about coming up to a week and a half now, being like, I've got something that night, or like, yeah, maybe another night. And I'm so guilty of that, being like, oh, sorry, would love to, can't that night, maybe the other night, or being like, oh shit, we're meant to go out tonight, I'm so sorry, something's come out, it's terrible. And it should just be so much easier to be able to say no. And is it like a thing where girls are like, oh, I want to keep that option there just in case no one else comes along, that they've got that person to be like, oh, I could go on a date if I wanted? Or is it just so much easier to stop being such a bitch and leading guys on and actually say, hey, sorry, I'm not actually into you, would be best if we didn't go out?
I think that as women, we are taught to be nice, to be sweet, to smile, to not be rude. And I don't think it's so much that you want to keep the guy in the back burner. I think it's like you don't want to say, you know what? I don't want your dick anywhere near me fucking ever. So fuck off.
I'd probably never say that. But I think it is a thing of we want to be perceived as nice and kind, and saying, hey, no, sorry, I'm not actually keen seems way harsher than leading someone on for a week and then just not replying and not actually going on the date.
I was so guilty of that as well. I used to do that all the time. And then I would get guys like almost stalking me and furious at me because I would even say, oh, I think I might be gay. And I actually got like caught out with that. Like, oh God, it's so bad.
That is a terrible excuse. Oh. That is terrible.
I once was dating this guy and he was so full on. His family was very wealthy. And so he's like, I'm going to take you and my dad's Ferrari to the opera and this and that. And I just wasn't feeling it. And I was like, oh, you know what? I went on a few dates with him and he was just too full on. He looked like a young Jim Carrey.
Oh, God. Yeah. Oh, I can just imagine that grin.
Yeah. And and I was just like, nah. And so I said, oh, I think I might be gay. And I told him I was gay with the friend I was with when I met him. So fast forward a year later, I'm with that same girlfriend at a bar. We meet these two guys. They're quite cute. And one of them's like, hey, we should go back to so-and-so's house. His parents are out of town and they're loaded. You should see this fucking house.
Oh, no. It's
we were like, cool, okay. And so we go back to this fucking house. And I was like, oh, fuck, I know this house. And the guy's like, oh, I don't have a key, but don't worry, my brother's home. The brother, the Jim Carrey lookalike, opens the door and looks at me and looks at my girlfriend and was like, oh, hi. And he was like, so, are you a couple, Caroline and Casey? Are you fucking dykes? Is that what you brought? Some fucking dykes home? Yeah, and the brother who
was trying to get with you.
Yeah, was like, what the fuck, dude? He's like, I know that this is that chick Caroline I told you about last year who I was totally into, and she said she's a fucking lesbian, and she's obviously not. And I was like, we are. We are.
We've just come here for drinks.
Did we not mention we are lesbians? Yeah, so we had to fucking pretend we were gay. Sitting there. So bad. Anyways.
I mean, you should have just said, sorry, I'm not keen on you.
I should have just said, yeah. And I think you can do it in a really nice way. You should just say, you know what? I'm just not feeling it. I'd love to be mates.
Because otherwise I just ghost people. And I just go, oh, not keen. And then I just stop replying. And then they're like, hey, Lou, you there? No, wrong number. This is not my phone. I, for the first time, actually, a few months back, did it properly rather than ghosting and just like slowly not replying and then being like, are you keen? Like, no, I'm not. I'm clearly not keen. I haven't replied to you in 3 weeks. But I actually did it properly. The person was like, oh, I'll give you a call after work. I was like, yeah, sweet as. And then was like, hey, look, mate, I'm not feeling this at all. No. And he lived, oh, I can't tell. This is so mean. What? He lived away and was like, oh, like I'll move up to Auckland. And I was like,
oh, get the fucking hint.
No, you will absolutely not move up to Auckland. Well, if you do, it is not for me.
And why do people like people that don't like them?
Yeah, what is it about the chase, eh? Like, treat them mean, keep them keen. You just want what you can't have. Oh, yeah, it works.
That's a thing they say. I remember they did this study where they had a guy go on a date with 3 women. The first woman was sweet as pie the whole date. The second woman, complete fucking bitch. The third woman was a bitch the first half and then nice. And then she would kind of like go back and forth.
Between them.
He was obsessed with a woman that was like back and forth between nice and bitchy.
You got to have a bit of drama queen biatch in ya.
Yeah, it works a treat because of it's this uncomfortable feeling if someone's bitchy to you, and then when they're nice, it's this huge relief. And so it is the biggest mind fuck you can do on anyone.
A bit of both.
It works. But yeah.
Treat them mean, keep them keen.
Not on super secure people though. If people are really secure with it, that's why it works with
nice.
women too. Guys will do it too, that hot and cold.
Oh, hot. Remember old mate who I was dating at the beginning of the year?
Oh, yeah, the cunt. Yeah.
You need to stop saying that.
Warning. Bad language. If you don't like fucking bad language, well, I don't think he'd still be listening. So anyways.
I hope he's not listening. But he was the worst for it. Like one day he was moving to bloody Timbuktu. The next day he had a new job. The day after that he couldn't do it because it was too intense, too quick. And I was just like a puppy dog because he was
I remember you saying, and I was like, this is not logical or rational. This is your brain telling you to like him because he's hot and fucking cold. I did explain that to you, didn't I?
I know, and I didn't believe you. And then I was bloody heartbroken for a couple months. And look at me now, though, I'm fine.
Yeah, you are.
Absolutely fine.
Better than ever.
I am.
Cool. We've been asking our lovely, amazing, gorgeous, sexy, incredibly smart listeners to send us stories. And
we got one.
And this is a story sent to us by, I guess I'm not supposed to say the name, but you're a fucking awesome girl for sending. This is a great story. I hadn't heard this. And she said she thought we'd be interested in covering this story because it involves some really interesting stuff with DNA as well as hypnosis. So this is the case of Brittani Marcell. Around noon on September 11th, 2008. Never a fucking good date.
So, yes, I was just, in my head, it was like, oh,
September 11th, it's never good. Diane Marcell returns home to her house in Albuquerque, New Mexico to meet her daughter, Brittany, to have lunch with her. Brittany was just 17, and she had driven home to meet her mom for lunch from her high school. Upon entering her house, Diane found Brittany lying on the floor, covered in blood. A man who Diane did not recognize was standing over Brittany holding a shovel. And obviously had been whacking the shit out of her with it. When he saw Diane, he dropped the shovel, ran to the kitchen, grabbed a knife, all the while screaming death threats at Diane. So she runs outside shouting for help, which she gets quickly. So instead of chasing Diane, the mother, thank God, he fled towards the back of the house. So later, when the police come in and investigate, they found a broken window in the dining room. So he basically just like bashed through a window, and they found drops of blood on the broken glass, which they rightly assumed was from the perpetrator.
Yeah.
So Brittany had severe injuries from the attack, multiple skull fractures, deep cuts on her head and face, a broken arm and wrist. At the hospital, she was reported in critical condition, low brain activity, fixed pupils. When you've got fixed pupils, you're fucked,
what
right?
What does that mean?
That means, that's why they shine the light in your eyes, is to see if your pupils are dilating, and it's showing massive, massive brain damage, and that like your optic nerves aren't working. So it's a bad sign.
Yeah, not good.
Yeah, so she was given a minimal chance to survive this. So they put her in a coma. Well, she was in a coma, but they put her into a medically induced coma to like help her heal. She woke up 10 days later, unable to speak, read, write, remember anything about her attack or the incident.
Vegetable.
Yeah. She thought she had been in a bad car accident, but they obviously tell her you're beaten traumatically with a shovel in your house, which, there were lots of stories on this and you can look it up. And I think we should like post somewhere some photos to do with this because it's really fascinating and you'll see why. She had a really long recovery. She couldn't remember anything. She's had over 22 surgeries to recover.
Oh my God, that poor
including
woman.
Removing a small portion of her brain due to it being crushed. So eventually she learned to speak, walk, and eat again, but she's still blind in her left eye and deaf in her left ear. And she had substantial memory loss. She's still unable to recall like her relationships from that time. She can't remember a lot. The police had like hardly any leads or information. All they really had was the witness, like what the mother saw. And these drops of blood.
Yeah, I was about to say, so if he was already in the system, then they could.
Yeah, so if they'd already had his DNA, they would have found him like that.
But they don't.
But there was no match. The mother described him as either Caucasian or Hispanic, around 20 to 30 years old, around 5'7", clean-shaven, brown hair. So they did like a sketch with a sketch artist. They put this information out. It was even on America's Most Wanted.
I bet it's someone from her school.
It's not.
Damn it. You're like, tone it, Lou.
Try again. Yeah, so for years, they're trying to figure this out. She can't remember anything. So by mid-2016, there was a woman named Detective Jody Gonerman who had been on the case for 3 years. So she had interviewed countless people and cleared them by DNA testing, and she just felt like she was no further along.
Just at a loss.
So, 5 years after the attack, Brittani was ready to revisit the case. Efforts to find her attacker with the DNA from the drop of blood weren't fruitful. This new detective that came on the case, Detective Jody Gonerman, decided to have Brittani meet with a forensic psychologist. And this forensic psychologist hypnotized her to kind of recover the memories. They thought maybe it wasn't just of the brain trauma, there also could be psychological trauma blanking this out. Because your subconscious mind will absolutely kind of delete memories if they're too traumatic. You know, like historically, if we got attacked by a tiger or someone like murdered us in some like clan war or something, like there's no detective that are going to go back and, you know, you don't need to really remember this. It's better to forget. And that's how we're kind of designed. So under hypnosis, she remembered that the man who beat her with the shovel had brown eyes and no visible tattoos. So a little bit time after the hypnosis, this name pops into her head, and the name is Justin Hansen. And this was a man who dated and fathered a child with her now former friend's sister. I guess she's not friends anymore. So whenever she visited her friend, this guy Justin would be over there. And she remembered that he had visited her at the mall like 3 or 4 times before the attack. So she worked at like some sunglass hut, and he would always come and visit her. The detective decided that she was going to get this new type of DNA testing done that's called snapshot DNA phenotyping. And so this company, what it does is it takes the DNA and it makes like a photo of what they think the person would look like. She convinced the police department to do it. But this woman had given this name. They continued to like kind of collect information. So once the woman got this snapshot report, she looks at the photograph and it looks just like the guy who the girl remembered his name and said that he was like kept visiting her. And so they predicted that he was, the snapshot DNA stuff predicted that he was European with minor Native American ancestry. He was fair-skinned with brown hair and green or hazel eyes. And so the detective later said, we only had one person on the list who had brown hair and green eyes, and his name was Justin Hansen. And his resemblance was exactly... Yeah, it was just like looking at a pphoto. Uncanny. So they go to his house and try to interview him. And he was like, oh, no, I've just like seen her in passing, or, I know her enough to say hi, but I never visited her, or I don't know what you're talking about. But apparently other people said complete opposite, like people that worked at the mall said that he was always hanging out, talking to her, and she had his phone number in her phone.
Oh.
When they asked him to provide a DNA sample, he said no. So he said, oh, I'll take your guys' number, and if I decide to give you one, I'll give you a call. So he doesn't call. So the detective calls him and says, all right, you going to give us a DNA sample or what? And he gets totally pissed off and like yells at her. And she mentions that she's talked to his family, and he just like loses it. And she's like, we have our guy. Like, this is absolutely him. They decide they're going to get abandoned DNA, right? I don't think they didn't have quite enough to be able to arrest him. There was no circumstantial evidence. So what they did was they just followed him and waited for him to do something so they could get this,
Yeah.
So basically they had an undercover cop follow him for ages. Poor undercover cop. But he drank out of a McDonald's cup, threw it away, and they were able to extract DNA from the cup, and it matched.
The blood.
The blood. It was
sicko.
Yeah. So he was only like 24 at the time
Was
when
he
he did
obsessed
this.
with her?
He must have been. After 4 years on the case, they had a DNA match, though I think it was even longer. So they didn't arrest him until July 2017. So this is almost like 9 years later when they finally make an arrest on him. They arrested him or charged him with attempted murder, kidnapping, child abuse, and other counts. And he was released on bail and able to be on home detention awaiting his trial, which to me, that's insane. I mean, if his blood's on that window and he claims he didn't know her and he wasn't at the house that day, it's just...
definitely do it again.
Yeah. So apparently just in July, he's been convicted to 18 years in prison with attempted murder.
Thank God.
I know.
That poor girl, loses her whole teenage years, can't speak, blind, like what the fuck?
I know. So, yeah, I mean, it sounds like she's made an incredible recovery, but still, like, she's deaf in one ear, blind in, but she's a fucking survivor.
Yeah.
Go girl. And to be able to, that's really cool that with hypnosis, she was able to
figure out.
She started like bringing back these memories, which is really amazing. Like for me, I mean, a lot of people ask me about using hypnosis for court cases, and I'm on the fence with it. Like, I think you need to have things like DNA evidence to back it up. I don't think it's reliable enough to put someone in jail for 18 years just on the fact that she said that's who she thought. Because she didn't actually say she thought it was him, but she said that name
kept coming up.
Coming up, and she remembered him hanging around. Yeah, but fascinating case. And like, that's amazing that they spent that much time and then following him around. But we'll have to post the photo, or I'll post the link to the photo where they show the mugshot of him. And they show
interesting to
the
see.
Composite of what this like DNA snap photo or whatever the hell it's called. But how crazy is that? Then like from a drop of blood, they'll be like, this is exactly what this person looks like. And they're getting it. Think about how many historical cases they could do with that too. Of like, well, like what about the DNA from like John Bonet's murder? Or, you know, there's so many unsolved cases. So I think that would like narrow stuff down hugely. It's amazing. You're not going to be able to get away with like farting without like, you know what I mean?
Technology.
Oh, unbelievable. Yeah. Thank you for sending us that story. And if you guys have any others,
send them.
And just have your own stories or whatever. They're really cool, and we really appreciate getting it.
Yeah, we love it. Thank you. Thank you for listening to WTF Stories and Advice. We appreciate all the stories you send in, and we'll be here next week.
Yeah. And if you have any questions you want answered as well, we'd love to tell you what the fuck to do. No, just kidding.
We'd love to give you some advice.
Some probably questionable advice, but advice all the same. Advice your mother would never give you.
Shit, no.
And yeah, also, if you like this podcast, send it to your friends. Give us a review.
Give us a 5-star review.
Give a 5-star review. No fucking 1-star review. I think we've only gotten one of those. But yeah. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll be back soon.
Thank you.
Bye.